Hello everyone, it's King Sloth back with another video. For those who don't know who I am, I was in the British Army for just under 7 years before transferring across to the Royal Air Force in the British military. Today, as you can tell by the title, I'm reacting to the March of the Valiant. It's the Philippine Expeditionary Force to Korea. I haven't looked too much into it, but it has been one of the highest requested video since the attack on Marawi reaction. And I am excited. A lot of people have wanted it, but before I do it, for 1,520 subs, you guys are absolutely amazing, and I hope we only grow. I was aiming for 1,000 by the end of this year. We're absolutely smashing it. But let's get into the video. It's a long one. It's half hour, but we'll skip any bits we don't if it gets a bit boring. June 25th, 1950, North Korean Communist Army stormed across the 30th parallel to invade South Korea. Okay, so North Korea versus South Korea. Okay. 135,000 North Communists marched southward and captured Seoul, the South Korean capital, in just 2 days. Shit. Okay. That's fine, that's fine. US set forces to help defend South Korea. Yeah, because no one really loves North Korea. Thanks. Well, eventually overpowered and forced to temper it. Really? I need to learn more about this. Like certain history I've never heard of. UN appeals to the Allied nation for reinforcements. In the Korean War, okay. September 19th. Okay, so weren't actually that long ago.
The War broke out in 1950. Immediately, the Philippine government, under the leadership of President Elpidio Quirino, offered to support.
Although at that time, we still recovering from the damage of World War II.
They said,
Jesus.
let's sacrifice to fulfill the commitment of our country to help a member nation in need.
And he says the price of freedom was something that we fought for with our blood, and we were going to do it again.
Authorized under an...
See, that's what, once again, the Philippines are very patriotic. They're like, it's a brother country. We're going. Like, straight away, no questions asked. They're going.
Act of Congress, Republic Act 573, which was passed in early September 1950. It provided the legal authority for a total of 5 different Philippine Battalion Combat Teams, or PEFTOC battalions, to help defend the beleaguered South Koreans.
So they're going to help.
5 battalion combat teams to Korea with a total strength of 7,420 officers and men.
And it was only through
Wow. So 7,500 officers alone, not including the men.
We were never forced.
Wow.
I was young, and we were trained, so we were prepared. No second thoughts.
And since we had all volunteered, we were a very happy bunch, in spite of the fact that we anticipated hardships and
Oh, Jesus.
threats on the Korean front line.
Wow. Okay.
At Busan, still another nation joins the growing UN command.
Let's get the weird intro bits. Okay. Oh, back into the story. Okay.
Well, when you arrive at Korea, about 5/6 of South Korea was occupied by the North Koreans. Only 1/6 was occupied by the Allied forces. Then,
So most South Korea is mainly controlled by North
When
Korea.
I arrived there in Busan, I saw Korea badly beaten, ruins.
then the civilians were
Jesus.
tanks moving. You could see movement all around, back and forth, because everybody didn't know where to go. Children crying, and most of the children were very skinny.
That still happens quite a lot. They're still begging for food now. The food supply in Korea,
We
North
sympathize
Korea
with them
particular, apparently is really bad.
We suffered the same consequences during World War II when the Japanese started bombing our areas.
We give them food. But I was their parents will come rushing towards us also and begging for food.
The whole people there talagang they're starving.
Very sad plight.
Oh my God.
Very destructive ang communism. That's why we were expecting na talagang we were facing trouble.
To have kids run up to you is one thing, but to have the parents run up to you like we're also fucking starving. Most people run up a lot to feed the kids. we'll be fine. But the parents running up and saying we're starving
I
is
was leading the group.
shows how bad it was.
Because I was with the tanks. But the farther is there were 3 jeeps. Now we reinforce them. Then followed by 2 companies.
2
The Able and
companies.
Baker companies. Then before we have to cross the hill, which was dividing the area between towns, we have to cross a bend. Now in that bend, further, there was 45 area by the North Koreans. Example, this is a hill. There are 4 lines of trenches. So when we were able to clear that area, they started firing at us.
Of course. I think that North Koreans now and then, they also they still have to do what they're told, otherwise they get killed or the family gets killed. It literally is that simple in North Korea. Do as you're fucking told, sort of thing.
Talagang firing at that area. Pati yung tanki ko na pasob-sob doon sa ano. Ang ginawa ko, pinataas ko. Pagtaas ko, nakita ko yung mga North Korean troops. They were already talking of maybe attacking. As a soldier, the first thing is safety. And instead of defending yourself, you attack. That's your reaction. You have to kill to live. So lumabas ako sa tanki. Paglabas ko sa tanki, hindi there's a turret.
Wow, okay. Well played.
Machine gun, sa ingay lang, ma-demoralize kayo. Ang lakas eh. Tuk-tuk-tuk-tuk-tuk-tuk. Ang ginawa ko, inumpisa ko nung ganyan. Nagtakbuhan. Yung nagtubatak.
The fear, okay. Oh, Jesus.
Hanggang to the point na all of them will nail down. Kaya
Jesus.
Yung mga tawa namin,
It's a bit fucking dark, it is. Saying like, I was forward at the North Koreans, they started to run. I carried on shooting them as they were running, and then I sent all my men in to get the rest of them. Jesus. Straight to the fucking point. I like it.
Nila, tumatira sa akin, wala nakatama. Maybe it was God sent fortune. Ano. Ngayon, after that, nung nahupa na yun, about mga 30 minutes, there were about 42 dead at saka about 100 wounded.
Jesus Christ.
Ngayon, bumaba yung Amerikano. Kinakongratulate ako because of that. Then after that, we proceeded to Shinji.
Sinji. Yeah, I heard about Sinji.
Immediately after the Battle of Myeodong, winter had already set in. The problem was that their uniforms that were issued to them earlier on were not sufficient. And here's his leadership. Sabi na, until such time that you give us this necessary equipment to fight the enemy, we will not move. Well, he was relieved and Colonel Ojeda took over. It was a very sad thing.
So pretty much the bloke would say like, people are gonna die from cold injuries. Help us, but nah, he's sacked. Removed from his post. Someone else jumps in. Who's willing to carry on?
The UN troops, yun doon naman sa Yuldong.
Just then, the Chinese and the Koreans were inaugurating the first phase of what they called Chinese Spring Offensive.
Okay. Jesus.
Nangyari sa Yuldong, ang 10 City nandito.
To the right of the Bay City were the Turks, and to the left of them were the Puerto Ricans. There were now imminent signs that they were being attacked by the communists in mass. What the Chinese did was they massed their forces in...
Is this about like the Battle of Yultong? Is it Yultong?
There were
Similar?
Chinese who were able to penetrate the ranks
Yeah,
of the
and the
Turks.
drops artillery in the Filipino stayed.
Iniwan yung pwesto.
Similarly, the Puerto Ricans on the left also did the same. They gave way.
Kaya nakapasok sila dito sa amin, na-encircle kami.
Here come now the 10th BCT holding onto their line.
Well played, someone. The Filipinos, after everything I've watched, they do not give up at all. They just don't. Like when it comes to they have to fight to survive, they fucking fight.
Bayonet, hand to hand. Use of hand
Get the
grenades,
bayonets
and so
on.
and so forth.
Fuck me.
Kulang lang siguro, duraan na lang. According to Voltaire, God is always on the side of the greater battalion. How can you face? You're only 700 when the Koreans and the Chinese had about 700,000.
Hard. All this is hard. And if you've got the top of the hill, you've got the high ground, priority.
Hold on.
Got the advantage.
According to the testimony of the defenders, piles of dead were there. Piles of dead.
Doon yung namatay yung si Captain Yap at saka si Lieutenant Artiaga, yung dalawang yun ang hero.
Heroes.
Assigned as the reconnaissance platoon leader.
I wanted to do
reconnaissance
a little bit of a story. I wanted to do before I even joined the army. First job I looked at properly was the reconnaissance in the British Army. It was like an infantry where you go out in small teams and you go and find the enemy and you either contact them or you just report back, and it looked amazing.
Company of the 20th Battalion Combat Team PEFTOC, then under Colonel Salvador Absede. Being volunteers, we were rushed
Spanish
to the
name,
front
innit?
lines in Korea. We took a railroad that took us to north of Seoul, the capital of South Korea, and passed beyond the 38th parallel, where the rear echelon of the 20th Battalion Combat Team, PEFTOC, was stationed. And after
Jesus.
spending overnight there, we were taken to our frontline positions.
So the Filipinos straight there, straight on the front line. They know the Philippines can get the jobs done.
Sorobon, which is already part of North Korea.
You are crossing the 30th parallel.
During the third week of May, our battalion decided that it is now or never. And I was picked by the battalion commander to lead the assault. And this is how I myself got into the big battle for Hill Eerie. And I was assigned to do this with my platoon of about 40-45 men.
Jesus, not a lot when you think about the amount the Koreans had,
approach
North
to
Koreans,
enemy
and the Chinese
fortifications
forces.
at about maybe 4 o'clock in the morning. And in May, in North Korea, 4 in the morning is still very dark and very cold. When we got to no man's land, after a truck ride of about 30 minutes, we had to creep and crawl.
To get to your positions, ready for them to start moving forwards, get dug in, get ready to go.
Most of that period within no man's land, we had to prod with our bayonets on whether there are mines planted with tripwires in the rice fields. It was very dangerous.
Yeah, I would expect that. Them, and they knew they were gonna do something like this.
About 2 hours
Put
of
mines down.
crawling. We saw really more clearly the enemy fortifications, which were our targets. We informed headquarters that we're here already in the assault line, we called it, ready to jump off towards the hill.
Oh Jesus!
But give us first the preparatory fires that we had planned.
Ah, okay, so they got this. Well played.
And these were from the fighter planes of the supporting American forces.
So this is still quite similar now to that used to happen quite a lot in World War II, but or in Afghanistan. It'd be okay. There's loads of enemy over there. We need air support. Get the air support in. They'd blow up as much as the air as possible, either to get them to push back so they can take over the area, or to at least weaken them so they're easy to get killed. It works.
Bombs along the target area.
Dropping napalm, I don't think it's not legally allowed to be used anymore, ever since the Vietnam War.
Advancing up the hill. But when the napalm bombs were falling too closely to
It sticks to you and it burns skin, burns through clothes, skin. You have to wait for it and you have to cut it out with a knife.
And then bring in the artillery.
Jesus. Blowing the fuck out that area. Hill Eerie. I should find a video on that.
And with the forward observer, Lieutenant Cosme Acosta, he did a good job of bringing in our artillery to bear upon the target area. And we continued advancing upward.
Jesus
when we were
Christ.
too close to the enemy positions, we called for ceasefire of the artillery. But we asked for tank direct fire.
Oh, wow.
From our supporting forces in the back. And so the tanks being able to fire directly at the target, almost in a straight line,
Wow.
started firing.
Get the North Koreans to put their head down, I guess. begin to put the head down so they can keep progressing forwards.
As the tanks were firing, we continued to advance to very near the top of the enemy fortifications.
Shout out to
And when
Marjon
it was time to do it, I
Dimalik
said,
for
"Lift
subscribing.
the tank
Thank you.
fires. We're going to attack."
That's it. The week enough, we're going up.
We identified the bunkers and the foxholes of the enemy one by one, and we attacked them with rifle fire, with bayonets, and in some cases with demolitions. The hand-to-hand combat lasted for about 30 to 45 minutes until I determined that the enemy resistance had died down. And I started accounting for my men, and I found out that they were all present, accounted for, except for one.
Jesus.
Or two.
So that 45 blokes.
Dead. I was very
Well
proud
done.
of the fact that we accomplished our mission.
The mission.
Well, of course, personally, I
The
was
mission with the fact like it should have been a lot harder. It said after half hour, we made them no resistance. They'd like just give up.
very thankful to the
Well done.
good Lord for saving the troops.
Very good. Well done.
The 19th BCT came in.
Actually, we had a turnover from the 20th BCT, turnover to us.
First of all, that was his hobby. And when he saw that many soldiers were being sent to the front, he came to my grandfather, then President Quirino, and said, "Papa, I want to go to war." And my grandfather looked at him and says, "Well, if you go to war, then my son has to go with you."
Dad used to say, when Lolo told me that I had to serve in the Korean War, of course I feared. I feared for my life. I didn't want my children to be fatherless. So that was my greatest fear.
Everyone's fear is that.
But the love for my father and my sense of duty to him as his son overtook any fears that I had. And so I said, "Yes, Papa, I will do it."
Well done. Gonzalez. Carino.
So that was the story of how both First Lieutenant Tomas Quirino and Luis Chito Gonzalez joined the war.
It was just like Quirino to send his only son at that time and his only son-in-law to the war. Because when he said the Philippines goes to war, he'll send his own family first.
I like that. There's less about sending your own family, it's more about the sense of pride you have in your, once again, the patriotism the Philippines have. Like, we need to serve our country. We need to do what's best. What the objective of our country is at the minute is helping out the South Koreans in this war. They answered the call. A lot of people wouldn't.
Yung asawa ni Mabisi, Quirino, pilot namang Pepto yun eh. Asawa namin.
He was a spotter pilot. He would go on this small plane at very high altitude and look for the enemy and relay the information back to the base so that they could either fire artillery or have other planes with armament go there, because his plane had no armament at all.
Dad was assigned to desk duties
Yeah, of
in the
course.
beginning.
Signal siya eh. He makes sure that all communication to the line to everyone has to be connected. That they properly
He was signals. He was fucking same as me back in the day. Back in the army, signals. Comms.
Signal is very important.
Correct. Signals is very important. No comms, no bombs, baby. Oh, God.
And he said for them to please give him combat missions.
My mother even said to me that your father, quote unquote, would do anything to measure up in the eyes of his father in the sense of esteem and respect. So he kept telling their officer, I want to see action. I want to see action.
Wow.
10th of June, we were shipped to Line Jamestown. And that's about 3 miles long stretch of defense of the United States forces. And in 5 days, we were sent to the T-Bone Hills. That is Hill 191 and Hill Eerie towards the
Yes.
stem of the bowl where the 1 regiment of Chinese are there. And we had a 4 days battle with the Commemoration.
You gotta keep fighting. Wow.
Oh, Terrible, terrible. You can just imagine artillery bomb dropping just in front of you, a few yards away, and then you're in the height of battle. If this is the hill that we occupied, the enemy was already crawling up, and our firearms hindi na sila buputok. Barado na, ano?
Wow.
My company commander was requesting for fire in position. Ibig sabihin, dito sa lugar namin, bombahin nyo na.
They were ready. So pretty much it's saying there, like, they knew they weren't going to get out of that world. They thought they weren't going to get out of it. Drop the bombs. Kill as many as they can. Hold off as long as they can. It's all about breaking down the forces.
Battalion commander didn't approve it.
Oh, shit. We're gonna... Wow. That's... He's got some balls for said that.
And at the end of the battle, after 4 days, there was a recording from the 45th Division that no less than 500 enemy Chinese cavalry were killed by
Fuck
our
me.
cavalry alone. That's aside from those who we encountered, yung umakyat sa aming hill, narapatay namin doon na marami. They suffered a lot.
Wow. Okay. They were willing to die. The battalion commander was like, "No, we're gonna save you." Artillery, airstrikes, killing as many people as can to protect this hill, the position. Wow. But to say, drop the bombs on us, we're not going to make it, and the commands were like, no, you will make it. A lot of them did. It's amazing in itself.
We were about to leave, to be relieved by the 14th BGD. And 3 days before, we sent a patrol between our line and the enemy. The squadron told me, Sarge, iwanan ko muna sa iyo yung pera ko, ha? Baka mamaya kung ano mangyari sa akin doon.
Bless.
Eh, na-capture siya.
It's captured by the enemy.
From Manila City, and I was personally responsible in bringing him there to my unit. So, I grieved so much about it.
Well,
Yeah, 'cause you got
that's
captured, you were
unfortunate.
dead.
Alam mo, pati sa akin, it's just lucky. I never thought with people, how many thousands there firing at me, hindi ako tinaman. It's a question of luck eh.
Correct.
Tawagin natin silang marangal.
I always said that even with war, you always have, it's either your day or it's not. Some days you'll be destined for a bullet. That bullet was always destined to hit you. Some days it's not. That day he got up out of his tank, got on the turret. It was destined that day that no bullet was going to hit him.
Yan eh, masigasig ng mga Pilipino.
My mother was totally worried. She kept writing to my father, "Come home soon. I miss you, sweetheart." She would apologize.
Aww.
"I am so sorry to keep bothering you, but I haven't heard from you all this time."
It's not exactly the easiest situation to send letters
And
when
the
you're
stories
surrounded
of
by the
my
enemy.
mom, on the other hand, she showed me some of the love letters of Dad to her. He was pretty romantic. He said he missed the family, he wanted to be home. It must have been quite challenging for him.
I remember him saying it was the worst time of my life. It was freezing. We were freezing. The biggest enemy that they had was the weather, actually, and homesickness.
Yeah, as long as you don't get out of your own head.
Left behind any memoirs. But he did send letters to my mom telling her that finally he got his wish. And that he's pretty happy that he came home alive from the experience.
Well done.
I was initially assigned to the 7th Battalion Combat Team of Colonel Napoleon de Valeriano of the Ninita Unit. Then, after about a year, I was given orders to join the 14th BCT. When we left, the President Quirino sent us off. He was at the pier.
And he told them, just before they left for Korea, and I will quote, "I sent ahead of you my only son and my son-in-law to offer their blood in the defense of democracy. Thus, my pride will be that with my own flesh and blood, I shall have participated in your coming struggle and victory for the honor
Jesus.
and prestige of our country." Unquote. That is what he said.
Willing to send his only sons and son-in-law
We really
into a
don't
battle
have to
where
get
the
fight
odds were against
under
them.
the chestnut orchard. And then we
That's
were
dedication
moved
to
to
your country.
Christmas Hill. That was our last battle.
Christmas Hill.
Them, we have to climb up the hills. And then when we went up that hill, sometimes you vomit the smell of place decaying. Nung dadaanan mo, mga patay. Minsan 5 level yung patong. Well, you get used to it. We captured the Christmas Hill. Then the Chinese attempted several times to recover the hill.
Come on, look at everywhere.
They throw in battalions after battalions and try to inflict as much casualties. They throw
Oh
in
my God.
practically everything. Parang ubusin na yung bala. It's like New Year.
Jesus.
When you fight back in that war, you have everything you need. Artillery fire support, tank support, aircraft. You can ask for any fire support.
Wow. And they held their ground, which I find amazing still to this day. We always got taught in the army, if you don't have the advantage, don't take the fight. If you can get away with your lives without risking it, don't take the fight. Don't do it. These dudes knew they didn't have the advantage. They knew they're going into North Korea to push them back with so many more men on the enemy side, and they still kept going. For them to send battalions after battalions and still not be able to break through the Philippines, the Filipinos, it's amazing in itself. It's such quite an emotional video, to be honest.
Up to the time the truce was implemented.
Well, the United
Then
Nations.
In the evening, ceasefire na yun. Well, silent, and then everybody was out thinking about going home, and then be thankful to God that you are alive and kicking.
Exactly.
It makes you feel good.
We did it. We held our position. There's a ceasefire. We've done our job. Emilio Lil Wang commanded a battery of 105 howitzers in the Battle of Yultong. Yep. Yultong is the video I've already reacted to. I heard some of this stuff before.
But everything was still on a war footing. There was the main battle position, the demarcation line between the two Koreas, which both sides guarded. The North Koreans guarded the north side, we did the south side. On the lines, your duty there would be to look through binoculars and you monitor the movement of the enemy on the other side.
Yes, the DMZ, demilitarized zone, which is still there to this day between North and South Korea.
That there was no longer need for the BCT in Korea, the orders were for the BCT to come home. But on the last minute, they said a contingent of 1 officer and 10 enlisted men must stay behind, and I was the one chosen. So because of that, while the rest of the battalion went home, I was there for another additional 1 month and a half.
Great honor, I guess, as well. You were picked out of so many people to stay there.
Our contingent was myself, only 1 officer and 10 enlisted men. And we spent the last day more or less turning on equipment, so we were in fatigues and we were not really in very clean state. While we were waiting for our plane to Tokyo, all of a sudden, here was a major with all of the guy ropes asking, where's the officer of the departing Philippine contingent? I said, I'm
the officer.
I said, can you get your men ready? Because there are 3 generals who are coming to see you off. And sure enough,
wow,
to send off a 2nd lieutenant and 10 enlisted men. They came with stars and stripes coverage. And that, I think, shows more or less the spirit of democracy.
Yeah, they called on the Philippines.
In that UN
the Philippines answered.
Where, notwithstanding your nationality, notwithstanding your rank, as a group, you are considered a Philippine contingent and therefore entitled to the honors of arrival or send-off.
I like it. I like it. Absolutely amazing when you think about it. Philippines can be called on at any time. And if they know it's the right thing to do, they're going for it. They're committed to the cause. And they will fight.
My spirit of patriotism was really enhanced. What an experience to be fighting like that. It is something that I can be proud of, that my family can be proud of.
Being part of PEFTO was one of Daddy's favorite episodes of his life. When he was diagnosed with cancer, the last trip he took was to Korea. He wanted to go back to the 38th parallel.
Look, there it is. Look, that's still there now. So that's North Korea, what they're looking at now. Pretty much this line where there's that bit of concrete here. I'll try and move the mouse so you can see it here. That is the line where neither crosses.
Just to go back and rekindle those memories. For me, that told me a lot about what he felt about being in the Korean War.
They're proud.
Yung kabayanihan, kagitingan at katapangan ng mga Pilipino na sumabak sa Korea ay dapat mabigyan ng alaala.
It is a moment of remembrance, but it is also a moment of extreme pride that our fathers and my grandfather saw it fit to be part of the democratic
You were there to
principles of
help.
freedom,
You were there for a
that
good
we
purpose.
did what it took to keep our cherished democracy. And to all the soldiers that fought hand in hand, side by side, heroes of the PEFTO, I salute you all. May the youth, like we do now, and hopefully generations to come, may they never forget the freedoms that were purchased with your blood and your sacrifice.
A lot of that. A lot of that. We will remember them.
This is the lesson of World War II and the Korean War. And the Vietnam War also after the Korean War to all of us. And some of us not only suffered from all of this, but some old warriors like were there. But we were happy to do our little humble participation in all of that.
A lot of that. A lot of that. They were happy to do their job. Happy to do it for the country. It's the patriotism you get from the Philippines, which is something I love, and I would love to go to the Philippines and just meet the people there, the culture, everything. They seem like an amazing group of people. I tried to learn some Tagalog, but I needed a bit more time. I want to learn. But yeah, once again, this was recommended a lot. If you want me to react to one of your videos that you want me to react to, comment it down below. Say, Sloth, can you react to this, please? I'm looking forward to it, and I'll add it to my list. I've now started doing a lot of lists on my phone, things I need to react to that I keep forgetting, because I check my notes every day anyway. And I keep finding what I need to do next. But anyway, cheers to Variety on YouTube. Just subscribe. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining the Sloth family. Yeah, it's been King Sloth. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all soon.